A very good evening to everybody, and thanks for clicking on to this second video. It is Tuesday, the 28th of October, and be sure to check out the Hurricane Melissa video that was recorded earlier on today. Obviously, a major situation currently unfolding for the island nation of Jamaica. Next in its sights will be Eastern Cuba, the Bahamas, and then eventually, perhaps further down the road, the remnants crossing our shores, or at least near to our shores anyway. But there is so much going on at this moment in time. Be sure to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. Had a double live stream back at the weekend, looking at all things winter in the Saturday live, and then on Sunday live we were talking about Hurricane Melissa. Upcoming weekend there will be a global weather report live, so content getting thrown out there 7 days a week, absolutely free of charge as well. So there is not many YouTube weather channels out there that provide as much varied content as here on markvoganweather.com on YouTube. So yes, let's get into it then. In terms of the last 5 days or so, this is the temperature anomalies for the European continent. We are firmly below average across the UK and Ireland here. Firmly warmer than average up across Scandinavia, if you notice here. Warmer than average across much of Iberia away from the north. France has been close to average. But if we look at the upcoming 7 days, according to the GFS ensemble, at least anyway, this is how it's looking. So we've got the cold and average across the north of the UK. Still, we do have wet weather spreading its way across the country today, with winds shifted from a north to more of a westerly. But we are also seeing wintry precipitation over the tops of the Scottish Mountains, for example, and a downright raw day down at low levels. Temperatures stuck in largely single figures, particularly so across the north. But the upcoming 7 days looks like this here. But in today's video, I'm going to look at a little bit longer range. And there is some interesting confliction in the modelling. This is off the Meteo France model here for the month of November. And you can see here that we've got largely positive heights here over the central North Atlantic, which is quite interesting. A little bit to the north of the UK as well. If we look at the Met Office model here, just bear with a second. You can see here that we have got for the month of November. More on this in much more detail coming up in later this week, because I'm going to be issuing the November outlook. You can see here for off the Met Office model here for November, quite a strong positive signal here. That is what would suggest to me anyway, you're kind of shutting down the Atlantic flow, something perhaps chillier, perhaps drier as well for the month of November. But then if we look at the GFS extended here, this is all the way to Tuesday the 25th of November, we've got a wet signal, and we've also got quite a low pressure dominated signal as well. If we go on to the 30-day 500 millibar height anomalies, you can see here positive heights over the far north, but we've also got this extension of negatives underneath, extending from eastern North America across the Atlantic and into the west of Europe here. Looking specifically at Europe, you can see here for the next 30 days, again, Tuesday, 25th of November, this takes you out to, we've got this negative heights extending in. That would be much more indicative of low pressure and wet as well. If we look at the precipitation anomaly for the next 30 days, you can see here that it is indicating, all in all, a largely wetter than average signal, anywhere from Iberia all the way up through much of the UK and Ireland, with the exceptions of far northern UK. In terms of temperature anomalies then, it is showing a cool north, warm south situation here. If we look at the ECM weeklies here, this is how it's looking. So yeah, slightly cooler than average across the north, warmer than average across the south. Looking at precipitation, and this is how it's looking. So firmly wet than average. So that's quite interesting actually when you look at that. And then in terms of the heights Let's have a look at the upper heights of the ECM extended. And you can see here negative extending off the Atlantic and into particularly the northern half of the UK. Go back here to the Met Office model here and look at the precipitation. I'll just quickly look at this here, because that would suggest to me the potential of something drier than average showing up with that that height mean sea level pressure difference. Let's have a look at precipitation back to the Met Office. For this is obviously specifically for the month of November. Later on, by the way, over the next few days, I'm going to be looking at the longer range models for the early portion of the winter and the heart of winter. Obviously, in the winter outlook that was released back on Saturday evening, I did say that I promised that I would show these model runs here for the winter season. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, it is in fairness actually indicating something a little bit wetter perhaps for the UK. Compared to average drier across the central Atlantic region, which is quite interesting. Now, if we look at precipitation, accumulated precipitation off the GFS all the way out to the 11th of November, it is showing a very wet signal here. We're going to have a series of low pressure systems moving in off the Atlantic. And this is very indicative of that phase 2, 3 into 4 and 5 of the Mann-Julian oscillation. That tends to drive much more Atlantic influence in bringing wet conditions across the west of Europe, including much of the UK and Ireland, especially west-facing areas that are exposed to the Atlantic here. But if we look at the UK specifically, the UK and Ireland take us all the way out to that 11th of November period, and that is a fairly wet look overall. And you're probably talking about a warmer than average signal showing up as well. We do have that cool north, warmer south over the next 5 to 7 days or so here, but I think we are going to turn milder than average, especially when you start getting deeper lows moving in from a more southwesterly direction. That is going to pull milder air up from the south as opposed to anything from the north or northwest. So, we will keep looking at this, and that is it. Short and sweet, but be sure to check out the Hurricane Melissa video from earlier on today. Lots on that. So enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and I will see you again tomorrow with more. Bye for now.